Happy game day, everyone. Welcome to the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network. Here at Center Ice, I am Nick. Beside me here, as always, is Brit. How's it going, Brit?
It's going. I was just telling you, I feel like I'm a Vegas Golden Knights fan because this team is drama as of lately. We're also recording this Monday night as people are kind of finally settling into understanding what we might be doing, but it's hard to say that we have any clue what they're doing because
we don't.
They're doing a lot.
All righty. Okay. Well, we got some last-minute items before puck drop. For you guys watching, it's just right before. It is game day. But for us, we're recording this as of Monday night, the 7th. So, before we begin, don't forget, everyone, to like and subscribe, follow the MHRT Network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can follow them on the various social media platforms of your choosing. If you do want to follow us, you can follow us at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Now that the season's back up and there's kind of all these moves have started to dissipate, which we'll talk about moves in a second, we're going to start posting more on social media as far as news, game days, final scores, the whole lot of that. So we'll be ramping that right back up now that the season's going. Okay, Britt. So I think these are just last minute items. I guess puck drop for what we're thinking is going to be in less than an hour. Games are already starting. I'm predicting the future, but in the past, the Utah-Chicago game was so much fun.
Oh my gosh, good. What is that? Is that the one that Bedard got in a fight? Man, he is just like Mr. You put Tyler Bertuzzi on a line with Connor Bedard. Apparently it's empowering because he's been feisty.
I don't know, man. It's just
he had like 7 penalties last year.
Let's see. Did I lose you? I might have lost you. Okay, well, we'll keep on going then. So the moves that were made. So I guess a couple like I said, house cleaning items right before our season opener against the Vegas Golden Knights. There were some roster moves that were made. We're gonna have Britt talk about those as soon as, at least to me, she's frozen. It might be me. I'm not sure. But we'll get to those in a second. But one of the big ones that we'll also talk about is the opening day roster was announced, and there were some interesting names that were left out and others that were left in. So we'll talk about those as well. We'll also talk about kind of our keys to the season as far as what needs to happen, things that we need to notice in order to consider this a successful season. Let's see. Sorry, Britt's trying to figure out what's going on. Okay. And then since it is the beginning of the season, we also have our weekly look ahead, in which we'll talk about the 4 games that we have on the slate for the next week until we see you guys again. So we'll talk about kind of the keys of the game there, things we want to see, everything to that nature. So first things first, Britt's having a struggle bug here. So first things first, there were some moves that were made, some signings that were made as well. So the first one we'll talk about is the signing of Nikita Prishchepov. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Russian names are always a bit tough to get, so we'll just assume it's Nikita Prishchepov. Signs a 3-year entry-level contract with the Colorado Avalanche. The timing of this was a bit strange. We don't know. I guess I should say I don't know a lot about Nikita, other than he did a pretty good job. I had noticed him here and there in his development camps and what he's done for prior teams. He's done a very admirable job. So this signing, again, the timing of it very strange considering other transactions that went down. I don't know if it's in order for that to happen or what, but 3-year entry-level contract. Obviously, you're probably not going to see him this season, maybe not even the next. I mean, it all kind of all depends. But either way, we welcome him to the team. Congratulate him on his signing of this contract. Wish him the best of luck. Okay. So that being said, that also kind of happened right around the same time as another trade, or move, I should say, that was made, and it was a trade. The Colorado Avalanche traded Eric Brandstrom, as in the same one we just got, to the Vancouver Canucks. What's so strange about it, at least to me, is like you just got the guy, right? You get Tucker Poolman and a 2025 fourth round pick in return. But it's just so strange because there wasn't anything, at least for that I noticed, that stood out from Eric Brandstrom. His play was okay at best, right? But at the same time, you kind of figured that this was going to be a working project to get him to be up to par. But yeah, I guess nothing panned out, So there was a lot of questions left over as far as, well, was it with stuff with the locker room? Is it things with his play? Was it a salary cap issue? What was it? Kind of from what I'm hearing from all these sources is it's kind of a mixture of the three, some more than others. But in order for this to happen, my guess is that it came by way of a salary. Brit might have other opinions. She's hopping into the studio right now, so we'll get her opinion on this. But my thought is that it was a salary issue more than anything, and because of Brandstrom's lackluster play, he was kind of the easy target, So I don't know if that is grounds for this type of a trade, but at the same time, it also seems like this move is also to jump to two other guys, as far as Gabe Landeskog and Val Nichushkin, because that trade did put them over the cap limit. Or excuse me, we were over the cap limit. Let's see. Okay. So that those acquirings and things that we had as far as what the roster was looking like at the time put you over the salary cap limit. So I'm wondering if this was a salary move in order to take Toolman, repurpose him down to the AHL, save some cap space, and then you'd be able to efficiently get Landeskog and Nichushkin back into the roster, for them to, obviously they'll count against the salary, but they'll be both able to play, and you won't be going over budget. Hey, Britt, you there?
Kinda. I don't. Supposedly.
Okay, well, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I think you're good. So we were talking about the Eric Brandstrom trade. What are your thoughts on that? Are you there?
Well, that one caught me so off guard, almost lackluster at times when window.
I got you. Are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me now? I don't know why StreamYard just really doesn't like me.
No, I still got you. It's a bit splotchy as far as video, but audio, I got you.
So the Brainstorm one it was a general consensus that he was. I'm not sure. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I think I can, but it's a bit delayed. So maybe we'll have to switch. Maybe we'll both have to switch to our phones. That might have to be the thing. So we'll kind of keep tabs on that. So with Eric Brandstrom gone, that now paves the way, just to kind of continue on, that now paves the way for these new roster additions to come in. Because again, Toolman isn't going to be one of the guys that you're going to have consistently in your lineup. But
from everything that I've gathered, it was entirely a cap gymnastics move. And it actually ended up like benefiting both us and Vancouver equally. We have to keep in mind that we hired Andrew Wilson, who worked for the league for a long time. I was trying to see how long he worked, but he was with the league doing this kind of stuff, working with the numbers and the cap stuff with the intention to confuse, because he's apparently operating at another level. Would even cross a lot of people's minds, even, you know, people like Bednar, or excuse me, McFarland and Joe Sakic. So essentially the trade facilitated Vancouver taking LTIR off of its books, because it sounds like Poole's career is essentially over. So then they can accrue cap space, because you can't accrue cap space through the season while you have anyone on LTIR. And we were able to, it's valuable down the road. It's really unfortunate, though. I mean, so it's just business, but basically he didn't make the team. Part of that is you had notably Kovalenko and Malinsky showed up. Simply were not going to allow, you know, when we signed those two, Brandstrom and basically everyone we signed in the summer, it was almost like a pity party, because it's like, wow, Malinsky's going to be stuck another year. And forced his way. I honestly think that Bednar had so much praise. Shillington's kind of the same. I don't know if he's going to stick around either. They've both been entirely underwhelming, but the positive is that we did find a replacement. And judging by they released the rosters.
Let's kind of talk about that, actually.
For
opening sorry about
day.
That. Let's grab that. So opening day, you mentioned Oliver Shillington. So if we go to the roster, he is listed on there, as well as a couple others that I want to get your opinions on. So let's talk about Oliver Shillington first.
They released the roster. Okay.
So go ahead.
So I was shocked because they had announced that Kovalenko. And okay, I have breaking, extremely important, crucial news that the world needs to know.
Let's hear it.
It was reported that Ivan's name is pronounced Yvonne.
Hey, as long as it's the same way pronounced twice, I'm fine
apparently
with that.
Aired the truth. So it's going on because it feels like Ivan. I got off track there. So they posted a roster that they were sent down. That was their like big post your final roster, blah blah blah. You had to submit your roster and you had to be under the cap limit. So what the teams want to do, if you are going to be utilizing LTIR, which Lord knows we will,
Mm-hmm.
Currently Gabe and Lecky are on just injured
Mm-hmm.
reserve, not on LTIR. So
Oh, now it looks like we lost her officially. There are, I believe, some storms in that area, so it could be that her Wi-Fi is getting knocked out. Um, okay, so as far as there she goes. So as far as what she was trying to say is that there was cap regulation, I guess if you want to call it, that what it appeared to be initially when those opening night rosters were made, is that Nikolai Kovalenko, who was doing a great job, like everyone projected him to be on the second line, he was going to be paired with Lehkonen and Middlestad at the but excuse me, down the road, he didn't make the cut, which was probably one of the weirder things that had happened. So him and then Ivan, who everyone thought, or I guess Ivan, now that we know the name, um, he didn't make the cut either, even though we thought for sure he was going to be there because he was also playing very well. He had a couple goals down the stretch, but none of them made the official night or opening night roster. But there were a couple of accounts that kind of clarified as to why that is. So Ivan and Kovalenko, they were part of these roster cuts in order to maximize salary cap LTIR use. They're not actually going anywhere. In fact, I'm pretty sure that as soon as some other people come in and some shifting is done as far as LTIR use, I would say at this point, they're probably back. Hey, and speaking
I
of back,
spelled my name wrong. I am
CSA.
on the verge of being furious. I swear to God, you guys are conspiring against me.
I promise we're not. I promise we're not. Okay, so I was just explaining as far as the LTIR use, and that's kind of why Kovalenko and Ivan are they're
Yes. So they're
cut,
paper transactions.
but it's just a paper
It's so
transaction.
what I've learned today is that something needs to change. Like this is absolutely insane, and it's clear that we made our decision on our assistant general manager hire that with the thought in mind that it's so complicated. It's worth hiring an expert over, you know what I mean, somebody that's I mean, I don't know of him super well. I don't know his hockey background, but it shouldn't have to be taken into mind that like it's hard to find somebody who simply understands the cap
Yeah.
rules and regulations. It is so complicated with LTIR hitting the max, and then how anyway, regardless, what they released on paper is the closest. It was a mathematical equation of adding up the contracts that added up to equal the closest dollar amount to the cap that they could,
Mm-hmm.
because then they can use that amount um tomorrow, or when they'll put Landeskog on LTIR. Lekanen, I think, is staying on IR, which
Yeah.
Bednar said today that he has a checkup on Monday. Or excuse me, he has a checkup like at the end of, he's not going to be back until at least the end of October.
Yeah. They
Which
said
kind of
it'll be a few
sucks.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But essentially that first one that freaked everybody out, I can't pull the roster back up now. That freaked everybody back out. Kovalenko and Callum Ritchie will be coming back up. They simply put them down because computing the numbers, sending the others down, keeping Wagner up, that's what added up to being the closest to 88 million, which is incredible because I saw Toronto was $1 short of
Oh, seriously,
the
they
cap.
pushed
Yeah,
right up to
that's
the end,
some
huh?
like serious, yeah,
Wow.
maneuvering. Yeah, which it feels like there shouldn't be such a like it shouldn't be such a huge part of the sport in just doing gymnastics around the cap. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just I don't know. It's silly.
Yep.
Um,
But as far as kind of right now, I mean, because like I said, at the time of recording, that's what the story is, and it could be by the time this is out, and maybe it already happened.
oh,
Is that they call Ivan and Kovalenko right back up?
absolutely.
That's the most likely scenario,
There's no
anyways.
chance that those two aren't getting called back up. It's
Hmm.
just paper. They raved about both of them. Those two shockingly came out as the all-stars of the preseason. I mean,
Oh yeah,
Kovalenko is essentially the
easily.
hero of the preseason. Um, Ivan, I mean, it's so weird when you look at the dudes that are staying up. So you've got Malinsky, Ivan, and Kovalenko are the three that basically forced themselves onto this roster. Kovalenko was a sixth round pick in 2018. Ivan, undrafted, 22 years old, got an AHL contract as a free agent and has worked himself into a. I don't think he's going to be an NHL mainstay, but he's certainly going to be first call up after this
Hmm.
stint. Once we bring some guys back, and then you've got Malinsky, who's 23, undrafted college free agent. It's like we're so. It's funny how we harp on about never developing anyone, and then our three to come out are guys that we didn't develop.
Yeah, I
So
know. Isn't that
I don't
that's
know.
kind of MO for the Avalanche, to be
Yeah,
completely honest.
yeah,
Um, so kind of looking at the rest of the list, obviously there's I'll just kind of go down the list. Most of them are not surprising. So is Mikko Rantanen, Joel Kiviranta, Callum Ritchie, Casey Middlestat, Nathan McKinnon, Miles Wood, Jonathan Drouin, Logan O'Connor, Ross Colton, Parker Kelly, and Chris Wagner for your forwards.
mm-hmm.
And obviously with um, Landis Cognition, Lehkonen, those guys are all IRs. They'll be back. They're obviously going to be the bulk of the roster down the stretch, but for right now, your
Mm-hmm.
opening day is that. So the ones that was interesting. So Cal Ritchie makes it, which
Yeah,
that one was not surprising. I'm very happy for him. I'm glad that did happen.
yeah,
But to have Chris Wagner, when one of the transactions that did happen was they sent him down to the Colorado Eagles and
yeah.
then called him right back up.
Yeah, so he's
Is
clear.
this
He
part of
doesn't.
that
He's going to be able to
LTIR?
move fluidly now because he won't have to clear waivers again. So I would anticipate seeing him.
Much
When
more.
someone gets hurt every 4 seconds.
Yep. And I think they did that. So it's just like, hey, send him through and then call him right back up.
Right.
So that way he made it through and then you can just
Yeah.
use him as you need,
This is
you
the
know?
time where if you have somebody that might get claimed on waivers that you really don't want to get claimed on waivers, this is kind of where everybody tries to bombard it at once so that other GMs are kind of they're not as hungry and most of them are satisfied with where they're at with their roster so they're not looking to claim as much. So even if it's somebody that you're going to call right back up, you'll send them down to get them through waivers in this huge bombardment of
Hmm.
waivers. Just so because then is it 30 days then that they move fluidly?
Something like
It's
that.
a
Yeah, I
it's a certain
believe
amount of
so.
time. Not
It's
that
a
he
month.
necessarily would get claimed, but guys like that have value.
Hmm. And for Chris Wagner, I mean, again, we talked about him last season. He kind of just was thrown into the fray, kind of under everyone's noses, and performed really well. So, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
the fact that he got an opening night roster spot is not very surprising to me.
No,
He's going to
he's
be one
perfectly
that's
serviceable and trustworthy. There's him
exactly
almost like him more than
exactly.
Kovalenko. Kovalenko is
He
kind of a
has his
disappointment to
moments.
see him on the opening roster.
He'll have his moments for sure, and I'm excited to kind of see if this maybe
Mm-hmm.
flourishes and develops into something, or if kind of what his role is going to be in for this
Yeah.
upcoming season. Goaltenders, again, no surprise. Alexander Georgiev, Justus Sanonen. We've talked about them several times.
Right.
Um, again, we can go into depth again if we need to, but I don't think we need to.
It
There
just is
that
what
your
it is.
one. It's your 1-2 punch. Annernen's up for the challenge. I think I want to see more of him, and I'm ready for Georgiev to get more breaks so that he can stay fresher.
Yeah, yeah, and pray that they stay healthy because then we've got I kind of wondered if we might make some kind of little pickup. We didn't get our usual John Gibson rumors because he had emergency appendix removal, apparently.
Yeah, I
So
saw
that
that, which
sucks.
is I think why Anaheim picked up James Reimer off those
Yeah,
waivers.
I saw that
Yeah,
Reimer. I love Reimer. I just can't not. Dude's just been doing it. I feel like for a
he just
million
keeps on
years.
going, man. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
he's a
That's
workhorse.
crazy.
But next up, you've got Mandalise and then Trent Miner. So it's not super deep. I don't know. It's a little. I guess at
Yeah, not
least Georgie doesn't have an injury history. So
that's true. That's true. So he'll be, I'm assuming, the starter for this game against Vegas.
yeah,
Um, then your defenseman, we talked about Malinsky. Obviously, his
amazing.
play was
Yeah,
so good. He was one of the guys
he's
we talked about last
yeah,
episode as far as he deserves a spot. Kovalenko deserved a spot. We mentioned Cal Ritchie, and then I don't think we mentioned Ivan, but he was the honorable mention where it's like, yeah, he
yeah,
played his you know what off, and he deserves a spot. Now, here's the interesting part. So let me read off the defensive list:
yeah.
Sam Malinsky, Oliver Shillington, Sam Girard, Calvin DeHaan, Josh Manson, Cale Makar, Devon Taves, John Ludwig. What's
Yes.
the name that stands out of this one, Brad?
We I when I saw that, I was just we already had I hate it that the Avs seem to do they always seem to make a move that never has a clear ending because we were texting and it was like, are we preparing to trade Sam Girard for some kind
What are
of
we doing?
Swayman? Like
What are we
they
doing?
always seem to make a move and then give a pause so that we can all speculate 1,000 different nightmare scenarios or good scenarios. You
Mm-hmm.
know what the other one is that, maybe we're preparing to pick up Sidney Crosby. I don't know, because when all
Oh
is said
yeah,
and done,
that's
we have
oh.
$2 million
How could I be so
extra cap
silly?
space. Yeah.
That's the
So
obvious answer.
it is. You're just lucky that I'm here to point it out for you.
That's
But
right. I should be
I
so
was
lucky.
very, very worried for a minute there that we were going to lose Gerard in something for Swayman. Just part of the thing is there's just very limited moves or options or men left. So it felt like Swayman was the only really move that could be, but they did that to replace Ludwig, which dude's a big boy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's good because with Grandstrom, we are running a pretty small D. It was almost
Yeah.
like one too many of the little guys, fast moving little guys. But and I know that it's not the old NHL. We don't have to have Curtis McDermott out there, but you do need to have some bigger bodies out there. There does need to be a presence. So I mean, just seems like he's just gonna be just a plug and play.
I think you're right. But even so, with this lineup, there's not a lot that I'm kind of concerned with, to be honest with you. Because again, you still have your top line of Taves and Makar. You're going to
Yeah.
have Manson and Girard for your second line. And I think if it's Malinsky and DeHaan or Malinsky Ludwig, Malinsky
And
Shillington,
Dehan has had a great camp. Great
yeah.
camp.
So it's
He was
like
the one that I was the least excited about between Shillington,
sure,
Grandstrom, and Dehan. I thought that he was going to be the bench sitter. And it
yeah.
looks like tomorrow. I thought I saw that they were going to be sitting Shillington tomorrow. I thought he was in the press box from Eric
They,
Dean.
I think they did have him in the press box at the time. But I mean, he's still going to be on that roster. But I mean, I am still just as content if it's a Dahan Malinsky tandem because
Yes.
we have seen those pieces of Malinsky, so we know what he's capable of. There's
Yep.
not a lot that leaves discomfort for me, right? With that
No,
type of
and
a pairing.
it's just it's honestly kind of terrifying that it doesn't feel like there's anything in between being if everything goes
Mhm.
right, I have no doubt that this team could and will win the cup, but
Yeah,
if a couple things go wrong, oh god, it could be such an ugly season. And at the end of the day, we do have McKinnon, Makar, and Miko. But if everything goes right, this team feels every bit as strong as the cup winning team. Or
Yeah.
am I delusional?
No, I don't think so. Because you look at the cup winning team, you had the young defenseman and the young forward of Bo Byram and Alex Newhook, right? Very inexperienced, but still very serviceable. To me, that's your Kovalenko, that's your Sam Malinsky,
And see,
right?
I think they're both hungrier than both of them.
And I think at this point, it's just kind of you're restarting that whole thing because your depth has come right back. You're gonna get Landeskog back at some point. You're getting Nichushkin back at
Right.
some point. All these veteran players are just going to come pouring in. Suddenly, all of a sudden, your depth is just outrageous on both ends
Yeah.
of forward and defense. So again, I think the intent is pretty clear that that's the depth is what helped the Avalanche in their Stanley Cup winning
Yeah.
season, and they're trying to run that back, which I think maybe we kind of run into that. I guess
Well,
lead right into that.
and then, but I just want to say the other really positive take from the moves that we've made today for me is that we've kind of criticized them for constantly bringing back the old guys. Like we hung on to
Hmm.
EJ for probably too long, Jack Johnson too long. We tried to bring Eric Helm back, and it feels like kind of a mental shift to where we are investing, we're going with the young guns, and that's
Yeah,
they seem to have realized that they don't have the patience for our projects nearly as long. Like we kept Tatar last year until what, Christmas ish, and this year
somewhere around there. Yeah,
they're not even letting them get on the ice. I mean it, and I can appreciate that. The urgency proves that they know what they have and what they need, and it may be doing right by Brandstrom also, because the way we've had some of our guys show up, there's a good chance he wouldn't have been playing.
yeah, and I think you kind of touched on that is with obviously with veteran presence comes age, right? And
Right.
so that's kind of your Calvin DeHaan factor. So I think there is
Yeah.
that mixture of both. And obviously we know that Bednar loves mixing up his lines every
Yeah.
game, right? Sure, there's your starting, but then by the time the third period comes around, not very often really is it the same three lines unless everything's cooking with gas, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's another big benefit is that this is a team that is able to have that privilege again of being able to mix up lines and still be just as efficient as your first line with the typical first liners and stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited for this lineup. I'm especially
Yeah.
excited
I'm
for
trying to
the young
stay
guns.
even keel, but I'm like stupidly excited, and I'm
Oh yeah,
scared that I'm gonna have my heart broken. But I didn't feel this way last year. I genuinely did not feel comfortable. Granted, a lot of it falls on how good is Duke going to be when he gets back. And I'll say this a million times, it's just going to be a constantly fluid situation. Pray to God that Nuke comes back rested AF, and hopefully we can see Gabe back. And we don't
yeah.
need Gabe as first line Gabe. I think that his
Just him on the
presence,
ice.
yeah,
That's all you need. Yep,
yeah.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Okay, shifting gears then. Let's kind of talk about this upcoming season, right? Just some last minute notes before puck drop here. You're starting out against the Vegas Golden Knights, and then it's going to be a pretty interesting kind of first bit of the season. I mean, it's just going to be an interesting season all around.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as what you've seen, I don't know if it's from things that you saw from last season or things you saw in the preseason, however you want to classify it. What are some things that you are going to look for this season, 2024, 2025, that you would like to kind of touch on?
I think my biggest thing is this team needs to find some emotional stability. It's just starting and ending with Georgiev. I mean, it's Georgiev. I hate how Bednar calls him Gorgie. It always drives me bonkers. I don't know why. But Georgiev, I don't know if he is the foundation of their emotional regulation or if he is the one who propels the dysfunction. I think McKinnon probably ties in a lot with the general vibe of the team. And I think last year was a frustrating year, but I think overall we're looking at starting the year in such a better place than we were right off the get-go last year that I hope we can start strong and ride. Because I just think that we were mentally defeated last year a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And then just consistency. I mean, we just consistency is key, and I'm not looking to go out and win from the get-go all the way to the end. I think that fans are going to probably have to have patience. It might be there might be growing pains
Yeah.
through, honestly, you think until December. I mean, looking at when Gabe comes back, as soon as Nuke gets back, we're going to have a flux of people up and down. I mean, it's going to be constantly changing. So I think that being able to roll with it and regulate our emotions, that they need to regulate their emotions, consistency and goaltending, and just, I can't even think of the word I'm trying to think of. Just like a
The
steady
chemistry
growth.
and
Even if it doesn't start out super strong,
yeah.
I think that it's going to be okay. Just
Yeah.
looking for steady growth.
I think that's a really good point. For me, I would probably say it's along the lines of consistency. It's about streakiness. Too many times, and again, this does come down to goalie play and kind of other stuff like that. But so many times, especially last season, the Avalanche would find themselves they're just out of a random nothingness, just get a beat down, right? And they'll lose 5-2 or whatever it is, and then
From
they just
Chicago, when I
and
drove 8 hours
exactly,
to be
yeah,
there.
from a team like Chicago, but then they will just struggle to just turn the momentum back in their favor,
Yeah.
and then it's like they'll lose 3 out of the next 4 or whatever it is, where it's just like you just kind of forget it and move on to the next. It's the
Yeah.
mental block, or I don't know what, but whatever it is, it's that right there is what kind of keeps people propelled into these first place in divisions or President's Cups or whatever it is. They're able to take any losses, quickly dispel the streak, so to speak, and go right back to winning ways. So that's going to be the
Right.
one thing I'm going to see is how they handle a loss, what the follow-up game looks like, I should say,
Yeah.
and how they respond to kind of a negative response to the game. So I think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be as difficult, especially with Landeskog being so much closer to returning. He's
Right.
always kind of that guy that, because you look in the Stanley Cup year, Landeskog was there and he knew exactly what to say. So anytime they
Right.
had a
He is
loss,
definitely like the emotional
oh
regulator in
yeah,
the locker room, and it
oh yeah,
feels like his absence has been so
it's felt
noticeable.
more than it's felt more than you realize. But
Yeah.
anytime there was a loss, not very often did those streaks happen, right? They turned it quickly right back around, and in a lot of fashions, swayed it so that they won by a big margin the very following game. Um, so I feel like with that understanding that Landeskog is going to be back, he is much more connected with the
Is
team,
that
despite not being
Echo?
is that an echo that I have? Oh, I get it. Here, I'll mute this one.
Thank you.
Okay, is that better?
Can you hear me now?
Okay, I don't. No, I still got an echo. What's happening?
The StreamYard on my computer that refused to work apparently.
Oh, it just suddenly popped back up, huh?
And I have my phone on my computer. So
Oh, there you go. Okay, so what was I saying? So back with Landeskog is just the
yeah.
fact that he's going to be there. It brings this new sense of, hey, he's going to give you the pep talk. He's part of the locker
Right.
room again, you know. So to me, that's going to be really huge. Is how you're responding to games.
Yeah.
Anything else as far as keys to success for the season, or other things you want to see? Specific things.
I think capitalizing on the gimme games, we are so bad, and we've for so many years we have lost so many games to Arizona, no matter how bad Arizona was last year. I'm pretty sure Chicago won the series. I think they won two of the
I think
three.
you might split it.
I just think
It's close.
capitalizing on every single point possible and not shrugging them off at the beginning of the season, because the top
of our division it's elite. And so we need to take every point we can right from the get-go. And I know I said that we need to be okay with a slow start, but also I just don't want to write off a loss to Chicago and a loss to Utah or a loss to anyone, the Sharks, the Ducks. I mean, we need to take those points because they're just not ever
kind of
gimmies
gimmies.
for this team. I don't know why, and it drives me insane that we lose to those teams, and then you get to the end of the year, and if it's like, okay, well, if we had those, 9 points or whatever, is that the difference in home advantage? Or so I just think that really capitalizing on those gimme games, feasting on these bottoming out teams in the West.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect key point because, like you said, these should be just free points essentially. Because even down the stretch, the league does sift itself out so that the cream really does rise to the top. And if it's where it's just keep getting pulled down, those are just free points that you're just wasting away. So I think that's an excellent point.
Parity ain't no thing in the West. Like
No
there's
kidding.
nothing in
No kidding. My gosh. Another point that I wanted to make was kind of with depth. And we did talk about it as far as this roster is concerned, but what I want to see is, and it's difficult because I understand there's a negative impact with this with your stars, but I want to see the depth take over. And I don't care if it's in crucial moments in
play
games,
real
but
minutes.
overall, I just want real minutes, real
Mhm.
production. And I just want to see kind of what we had back in 2022, where there were just games where it was nothing but your depth that did the scoring, and the stars didn't have to do anything. I want to see that on a more consistent basis, right? Because the whole objective is to win the Stanley Cup. We all know this, right?
Yep.
The way to do that is so that the entire team shares wealth, right? Now, the adverse side to that is that it could deprive Nathan MacKinnon of making this amazing points run again, right? I understand that,
He
but
would
at the
tell
same
you
time,
every single time he'll take a cup over a heart or a
100%,
rocket.
100%. But at the same time, I have no reason to believe that your Mikko Rantanens and Nathan MacKinnons and Cale Makars will still continue to produce 100+ point seasons currently. Add that with depth production, and you have an outrageous point scoring team that it's a machine,
Yeah, I mean,
So
we should have a
that's one
lot
thing that
of
I want to see.
really hungry players this year, and that's a good thing.
I hope so, especially with Mikko on a contract year, Makar on a bounce back year, Drouin now he's just better than ever.
Prove it
I'm
year.
excited to kind of see how not only do these stars perform, but then you add Landeskog, Nichushkin, Lehkonen back in. How this whole team finally, no injuries, comes back together as an entire unit, and I'm just so excited to see that. There was one other thing that I will say, and then we'll bounce it back to you, Britt, if you have one more thing as well, and then we'll kind of move on to the weekly look ahead. We're bringing those back.
Okay.
Power play. This is one that, to begin the season, we were unstoppable last year. We were like, I think, 19 straight games with a power play goal. We were in like the top 3 teams in the league that just anytime there was a power play, it's like, dude, someone's scoring, right? Like we were so good. And then in the middle of the season, it just imploded to a point where you and I, when we were calling or texting, basically said, can't we just deny the power play? And just
I think I actually said,
because we
can
get
we
better in
waive
that
the
scenario.
power play?
Get a
Because we
man
had
up.
let 2 shorthanded goals in a power play. I think it was 2 games in a row.
It was ridiculous. It was so ridiculous. So it's kind of back to the whole streakiness thing, but that's a consistency issue, right? Because they totally had it. Then they lost it for a good long while, and then it kind of came back. So it's kind of a consistency thing where it's like same thing like what you've been saying. These are give me goals, whereas you said with give me wins for the teams that you should be beating, these are give me goals. You have a man up. The one thing that drives me insane is the pass, wait for the perfect shot, then shoot. It's like, no, if there is a single opening before it gets blocked, fire it on net.
Yeah.
More likely than not, a rebound, whatever, is going to jar the puck loose, and you have good players that are down in the trenches that can just shove that puck right back in, and there you have a goal. I mean, not very difficult to do, do it,
Yeah, it felt like we had been very trigger shy last year, and we saw guys like Joanne finally start shooting more, and then they would score. It was the craziest thing, and I feel like we're gonna see kind of a breaking out from guys like Middlestat. I don't think Kovalenko's scared to shoot, so
That's good.
I would project Kovalenko, Middlestat, Callum Ritchie. No?
For your second line power play, or
Yeah, which
probably,
or just
Ivan,
them
that could
on
be
the
fun.
line together in general. But I feel like I don't know who they're gonna put on that second power play. I guess I feel like we're
There's a
gonna
good
see
chunk.
guys in general shooting more, like guys that have been playmakers. I think we're with the young guys, we're gonna see newfound confidence where they're taking shots that might be a little sloppy, but that stuff goes in, especially on the power play. You have more space.
Yeah. So that would be, I'd say, my final key. There's a few more, but those are the glaring ones for sure. So Britt, go ahead if you have one last one, and then we'll kind of jump to the weekly look ahead.
For a key for the year?
If you have anything, if not, we can just jump right ahead.
I don't think so. I mean, I feel like everything just comes down to like consistency and control yourself.
Yeah. No stupid penalties, that's for sure. Okay.
Yes, Miles Wood, looking at you.
Mikko Rantanen. Let's see. The list can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Anyways. Okay. So we're bringing weekly look-aheads back. This is always a fun thing to do because you get to visit team-specific and matchup-specific look-aheads. So before puck drops here, we only got a few minutes. We'll try to go through these next 4 games and just kind of talk about things we want to see specifically in these matchups. That's for those of you who are new that have not experienced these weekly look-aheads before. So this game tonight, for those of you watching this as it's being released, against Vegas, you just played them. You did beat them in the preseason, kind of their full roster almost versus your full roster almost. What's the biggest key to the game? I'll go first because it's right on fresh in my mind. It's going to be how your goaltenders start, to me, because Georgiev had a rather lackluster preseason. And I understand it's the preseason, but at the same time, you better be 100% because, again, it's a TNT game. So national broadcast, we tend to just
already people are upset with him after that preseason showing. So prove to us that you are just trying out some new depth of your blade sharpening or something.
I'm of the opinion that it was just kind of warming up. The obviously outcome didn't matter. But with Vegas, this is a different animal because Vegas is it's an interconference rival, if you will.
Especially the way we like to let a goal in the first minute of the game.
Exactly. Yep. And that's kind of the key to the game is that goaltender play it's come out just guns a-blazing and get that goal first within the first 5 minutes of the game. Right, because that was an issue we saw last year. Is just Georgiev.
We only started playing halfway through the second, and Georgiev.
He let in the first goal within the first 5 minutes, but then he'd play really, really well afterward.
Exactly,
and leave it up
the
to the
team
offense
did the exact
back.
same thing. The team did the same thing. It was insane. How many times did we score 3 goals in the third period?
Oh, there were plenty. There were so
ridiculous.
But I'm gonna say with this one, I need to see Georgiev ready to play. I need to see him just super loose, super super flowy, however you want to call it, so that it's not tensed up and
playing confident and loose.
I think that's exactly right. So that's going to be my key to this particular game is the goaltender play, because I'm assuming Aiden Hill, maybe Samsonov, I'm not sure. They probably have it ingrained in their head. It's like, hey, we gotta, he's going to bring his game. So I feel like Georgiev needs to do the same.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I gotta make sure I don't lose. Yeah.
No, you're good.
Yeah, that
What
is
about you, Britt?
interesting. I love Samsonov, and they also have a Garrett Schmid, my Muskies goalie there too. They're gonna just
Oh,
ruin
that's
him. I
right.
just know it. I hate it so much. It'll be interesting to see. Aiden Hill's hurt like a lot of the time. Is I don't know if he'll be the starter, but and the thing about Samsonov is when he's good, he's so good. But when he's bad, oh my god, he's bad. I
Mhm.
mean, quite like Georgiev. Um,
Yeah.
to me, I just think that the most important thing is my key is getting out there and setting the tone from kind of like we were talking about the first minute of the game last year. So many times it felt like we didn't turn it on until the end of the second and we just couldn't quite catch up. How many games did we get within one goal after being down by 2 or 3 and
Hmm.
then ran out of time?
Yeah.
Hopefully, as the season progresses and we're not having to overplay so many people, we don't see the batteries run out or them have to. I've always wondered if they have to, if they're what's the term I'm looking for? Like reserving in the beginning to try to
Yeah.
maintain the whole game. But yeah, I think getting out there and setting the tone, we have some big dudes, and I would like to see us get a couple big checks. I mean, honestly, I would love to see Josh Manson get a couple big hits, and I'd like to score a goal quick and early and kind of put to rest some of the chatter about the Avs because the discourse about the Avs is just so weird right now. Some people genuinely could justify them not being in the playoffs, and then other areas they are considered one of the strongest teams in the NHL and a top tier contender for the Stanley Cup. So
Yeah.
I would like it, it's just nice to get out there and just set yourself off in a positive note for the media, for yourselves, mentally, emotionally, and because it's Vegas. Like freaking
Yeah.
screw Vegas. Like I just don't want to give them the pride in scoring first and taking that momentum because I think it'll be huge emotional momentum. Is that their home opener?
That
Because
would be
that
their
game's
home
gonna
opener. Yeah.
be, oh god, that's gonna be insane. I'm sure
Yeah.
that arena is going to be off the hook because as
It's
much
gonna
as
be
I hate
electric for
Vegas,
sure.
that arena is awesome and their fans are
It's a
loud.
cool place. It
Yeah,
really is. We went to one of their games last season and just it was an electric
yeah.
atmosphere, you know. So
Suck it out of
uh,
them.
I think that's exactly right. Okay, so that's the season opener. Then you
Yep.
have a home opener finally, right? So Saturday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, it's going to be against Columbus. It's going to be nice because you're finally seeing them early in the season instead of like last season where
Yeah.
you didn't see
We
them
played
the
them
first
like
time until like
twice in a week.
April.
In the
It was
last
so
week, that was
weird.
so weird. And then, oh
So
no,
it's
that
going
was
to be nice to see
Edmonton.
them. But this one, it's obviously it's going to be a pretty somber moment with obviously with Goudreau's.
It's
Um,
wild how we have like four, like at least three, like really emotionally charged games with.
yeah. Um,
Um, it's gonna be a
but
tough
this,
game, and there's no judging how it's gonna go, but they do still have to play hockey, and it's gonna be sad. And I'm sure there are a lot of
yeah,
Avs players that are good and good friends and close with the
I
Goudreaux, so it's gonna
agree.
be hard for everyone. But
Yep.
hopefully, they can channel that emotional energy in a positive
I
way.
that's exactly my key to this game is you have to have your head in the game. I know there's a lot of sad feelings, a lot of just condolences
Sounds
still
like
be
Boone
and
Jenner has a
heartfeltness.
really serious injury now. I swear to
Oh, I
God,
heard
that
about
so.
that.
I don't know what he
Um,
did. Sounds bad.
but
I
but
mean,
this is one of those games though that it's like
you
there's a
need to
lot of
take
stuff
that
going
point.
around off the ice, but you have to remember that
Right.
you still have a game to play, you know.
Exactly.
So that's going to be my big thing is mentally you have to be in this game because again, Columbus is, I mean, they were supposed to be from the very beginning one of the bottom feeder teams. So this is kind of like with what you were talking about. You have to take advantage of these types of things.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Take these points.
take
This
the
is
points. Yep,
yeah.
I 100% agree. So what about you, Britt, for the Blue Jackets? What's kind of the takeaway for you?
That basically the same thing. I mean, it's
Same thing.
really just going to be I mean, I don't know how I can come out with every game and say stay calm, but it feels like regulating their emotions. I mean, it's going to be such a hard night for everyone, and they are going to have to keep their head in the game. And that's what they need to look at this game, just like every other game against the Oilers or Vegas. They need to take this point, and at the end of the year, this point matters just as much as every other one. So they add
Yep.
up.
Yep. 100%. Okay. The following game, still a home game, Monday, the 14th. That's going to be the Islanders. So Patrick Roy and company come to town.
I read he hasn't stepped foot in the building since he resigned.
Oh, really?
Isn't that
That's
insane?
there's no way. There's no way.
We didn't
Really?
play the Islanders at home last year.
Well, not with Raw on the team. I guess you're right.
He is a
Interesting.
very
Interesting.
stubborn man. So, I mean,
So, and that's exactly it. My key to the game.
and as I don't even see the Islanders getting in the playoffs.
Sure.
But you know that his team knows that they need to beat this damn team for Coach Watt. And I think
Mm-hmm.
he is in a very different place mentally. I think he's really may end up being a very successful coach at this point. I think it was just a really bad culmination of a whole lot of things when he was with the Avs. It's unfortunate how it ended out, and I don't think he handled it very well. But even if it's never said out loud and he comes back and everything is friendly and we're fine now and things are mended, you know, he doesn't even have to tell his team, but I need you to beat them for me.
Yeah.
That's why I say it's another emotionally charged game, and we just need to smother them. I mean, they are just they're slow. To me, this is almost on the verge of a gimme with the way our team plays versus how they play. But
Yeah.
you think they could put Varlamov in net?
Oh boy, wouldn't that just be? I mean, it would make sense. I don't think Sorokin would be back in time, right? So
I
I'd assume
know.
it'd be Varlamov. So it could be just the old Avs versus the new ones.
Which who's still playing on the team that? I mean, there's not a whole lot of guys left that would have that emotional connection with Varley, but I mean,
but there's Devon Taves. Did you know that he played for the Islanders? I don't
yeah,
know if you knew that.
yeah. But at least
Oh
now
man,
he doesn't have that FU spirit against
yeah, he's been with us for a good long
what's
while.
his face? Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
but
I
I
think
think
it's just going to be consistency because they're not fast enough. They're not we need to play our game, and I think this is one where we could destroy them.
yeah, and that is my key to the game. However, is who outcoaches who, and it obviously is because of the reunion that's happening. I don't know if it's going to say, I'm not going to say bad blood, but there's still just kind of some tension,
Yeah, it's
right?
never going to be right. It's always going to have a
Exactly.
weird
There's
cloud,
always that
even if
one
they're
thing.
smiling.
Yeah, there's
Would
always
love to
just kind
see
of a
some
little bit of a
vintage Patrick
grindy.
Waugh explosions.
Exactly. So to me, it's just Bednar's system, which has flourished with the Avalanche, has been
Hmm.
so good for the Avalanche. I want to kind of show the previous coach kind of how it's
Right,
done,
almost kind of
and
show
again,
off. This is what we are now. You know, this is
exactly,
what,
and again, I
and
love
it does
Patrick
it.
Raw, right?
Yeah.
I have zero ill will against him, right? But at
But
the
it is
same
each
time,
team is playing as a testament to the coach's
it's the coach
value,
it's his
emotional.
system, right? And
Yeah,
Bednar is one of the greatest coaches in Avalanche history, right? So I want to see this system kind of go out and beat the old system, if you will. So
right.
it's going that's my key to the game, just kind of who out coaches who. Okay, and then the last one we're going to cover for this episode is Wednesday the 16th at 7:30 Mountain Time. It'll be the Avalanche and Bruins. Now the
I
Bruins,
know, which is like, is it going to be really exciting? Because
this one's
they've
going to be
already
interesting.
said that. What's their goalie's name? The other one, Kasperi
Apollo,
Korpisalo. He's. They said he's still starting the first game of the year, so we
which makes
may.
sense.
end up getting to meet Boston at a time where they are fumbling like a bunch of dweebs because everything's going wrong. Swayman's probably going to
Contract,
have a rough start. He missed the
yeah,
entire camp and
missed the
preseason.
off-season training
Yeah.
camp, everything. Yep, you're exactly right. So hopefully by then, and that's kind of my key to the game is where is Swayman, right? Because if he's starting, it's going to be his first, maybe second game, so he'll still
Probably.
be,
I mean, that's
a little rusty, right? So it's take advantage of that if you can. If not, if you do end up with Korpisalo, it's basically you're take away these points from Boston because
we are going to have to shoot lots of pucks because
yes,
Swayman just signed his life away and now has to prove
it
that he's worth what he told everyone he's worth.
Well,
so
and even so with
he's going to be
Korpisalo,
on a mission.
Yeah, even so with Korpisalo though, is he's now a
Yeah.
Boston Bruin. He is on a better
And
team where their
Korpisalo is not a
expectations
bad
are through the
goalie.
roof. Yeah. And they've always had this great tandem and these expectations because keep in mind they've made the playoffs consistently for years.
Yeah.
This year is not going to be any different for them. And they have a very, very productive defense that like they're really good at blocking shots, clearing the puck.
We need to play big. We got to play
You
big.
You need to match their energy. This can't be one of those games where you think it's a gimme and you let have a 3-goal lead, take your foot off the gas, and all of a sudden they come right back in because they have all the offensive firepower as you have with Pasternak and their whole crew. They can come right back into games. So it's just about take advantage of whoever goalie, whether it's kind of a rusty-ish Swayman or a trying to create a name for himself, Korpisalo. It's being able to take advantage of whoever's out there and make them pay.
Yep.
So,
and hopefully by then we'll have a little momentum. We'll kind of work out some of those bugs before then. I feel like it's a pretty good buffer. Vegas is gonna be a little bit of a tougher one, but it's kind of nice having Columbus and the Islanders as a buffer. For the guy, we have a lot of new guys on our team.
It'll be a good challenge. It'll be a really good challenge. I agree. Okay, so I think that's going to kind of drive us all the way to the end of this episode. We're going to try to keep it right here at the hour mark. So, Britt, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add before this puck drops for the Vegas.
No, I am sorry for my technical difficulties that never seem to end.
No, I don't know. That's because you always have.
And I like your hat, by the way,
right?
too. I don't think I've seen that one before.
I might have worn it a couple times, but yeah, I do.
Looks like
I do
music notes.
It's very, very stylish. So I only wear the best for the Colorado Avalanche.
You save all the stuff.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on this episode of the Cluster Puck Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Let us know your feedback and kind of your preseason or season.
Yeah, we'll see how this ages.
Review notes, that whatever you want to say, DM us, let us know. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow the MHRT network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can follow them on the various social media platforms of your choosing. If you want to follow us, you can follow us at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Wait, hang on, that's backward. It's the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook, and then at Cluster Puck Abs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Sometimes you just kind of jumble over your own words. It becomes so mundane when you say the same thing. Then let's see, I think I said everything. So with that being said, let's enjoy the first game of the season. I'm just so excited that I'm just trying to get it all out.
Keeping in line with my need to always throw in one more thing we didn't mention, we signed Prishkapov to a 3-year deal.
Yes.
Looks like this could be an NHL call-up.
I mentioned that during your technological struggle.
Sorry, it's fun. I'm excited.
No, we can indulge in that a little bit further because there were a couple things that I wanted to know from you, but we can talk about that next episode.
Sounds good.
Okay, so with that being said, let's hope for some wins, starting the season off right. Maybe we can beat our record of 8 straight wins last season to begin the season or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, we did.
Or something like that. So there's some records to be broken. Okay, so with that being said, let's go play some hockey. I'm ready. The season's back, baby. As always, go Avs, go.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high, might never come down. So what? This is my lifestyle.